Good afternoon, students. This is Dr. Prashant here. I welcome you on Movishala online platform. I am faculty for Geography as well as Environment and Ecology for UPSC as well as State PCS since last 10 years. Students, today we are going to deal with the topic of process of formation of precipitation. That means in easier terms, the rainfall. Students, I have noticed that as such this is very simpler concept, the process of formation of precipitation, but still the students commit a majority of the mistakes while I check their answer sheets in the mains writing. So the reason behind it I could come to know is that they are not properly understood, they have not understood the basic terminologies that is involved, or it is a part and process of this process of formation of precipitation. And that's the reason why I do focus more on making student understand these basic terms. And once you understand this basic terminology involved in this process, then I am sure that you will never understood, never get forget, or never get jumbled or confused regarding this process of formation of the precipitation. So let's begin with, and what are the most important basic concepts involved in this process of formation of precipitation. The simpler one to begin with is air. Then we know that it's two types of air. There is warm air and cold air. Then we also say that the terms used in precipitation, stable air and unstable air. Then the most important terms are saturated air and unsaturated air. Then the important term is saturation and condensation. Then another important terms are normal lapse rate, then dry adiabatic lapse rate. Then it is up to type, dry adiabatic lapse rate and moisture wet adiabatic lapse rate. Then process of cloud formation, or you can say that cloud droplets, water drops. Then hygroscopic nuclei, which is also called as condensation nuclei. Okay. So these are the basic terms that we need to understand first. So let's begin with simpler concept, air. So as far as air is concerned, if the air becomes warm, that means if it get heated, then what will happen? If this is the air mass, if it becomes warm, it gets heated, then what's exactly happening? It's getting heated means if heat is given to this, it expands. Do you know? Everybody of you know it's a basic concept that if heat is given, then the material or the substance get expanded. So air once become warmer or once it get heated, then what happens? It leads to expansion. That means expands. What happens exactly? This air expands, and once the air expands, what will happen? These air molecules will spread, get away from each other. That means what? The air will become lighter, isn't it or not? Means if the air is heated, then what will happen? Once it become warm, then it will start expansion. Its expansion will start. It will get expanding, and it get expanding. That means what? It becomes lighter, and as a lighter, you know everything. If the air is lighter, then where will it move? It will move upward. That is called as ascend. Right or not? If the air is light, then where it will move? It will move upward. That is called as, in geographic sense, ascend. So understand now, if the air mass at that particular parcel of the air, if it is heated, if it becomes warm, then it will expand. After expansion, it will become lighter. If it becomes lighter, then it will ascend upward. Now see, the exactly opposite what happens. If the air mass it is cooled, if the air mass is cool, then what will happen? We are cooling means if any substance or material is cool, then what happens? It starts contraction, it get contracted, contraction. Due to what contraction, what happens? The air molecules will come closer and come closer, and due to this what will happen? Its size will contrast and its density will increase. That means what will happen? It will become heavier. Yes, and heavier air will move to which direction? In a downward direction, and the movement of the air from in the atmosphere from top to bottom, that is called as descent of the air. Getting it or not? So these are the basic terms must understand. Just get it with a clarity. So we have seen there are two parcels up here. The previous parcel up here, we have warmed it, we made it warm. After warming, it expands. After expansion, it becomes lighter. After becoming lighter, obviously it will move in upward direction. This upward movement of the air is called as ascent. We took another parcel of the air, and this parcel of the air we cooled it. After cooling, what happened? The air molecule get contracted with each other. When contraction takes place, the density increases. That means their weight increases. That means this air parcel becomes heavier, and this heavier air parcel will have a natural tendency to move in a downward direction. This downward movement is called as nothing but descent of the air. Getting it? Now, as far as now second term is concerned, stability and instability. As far as stability is concerned and instability is concerned, understand these are very simpler terms, but they are very, very important. One must understand. Unless and until you understand this, you will never understand precipitation nor any of the climatological feature will understand. So these are the basic terms that one must understand. Now see, these are also related to these two air masses. Now let me tell you what is unstable air. Before instability, understand what is unstable air. What is unstable air? So unstable air means the air which is warmer. Again this term, the air which is warmer, which has been expanded and which has become warm. This warm air, it is called as unstable air because it is having upward movement. In technical jargon, if you took what is the stability and instability of the air, then technically we can define it as the air with vertical movement. The air with vertical movement is called as unstable air, isn't it? The air with vertical means either in upward direction or in downward direction. It is called as unstable air. And stable air means what? The movement of the parcel of the air that don't have lacking this property or phenomenon, which does not show this phenomenon of vertical movement of the air, then that is called as stable air. Stable air mass is generally the colder. So as far as this vertical air movement is concerned and instability is concerned, we have to see this in viewpoint of our precipitation. As far as precipitation is concerned, this is the best example of the vertical movement and unstable air. So the air becomes when warmer, it expands, it becomes lighter and it ascends upward. This vertical movement particularly, this is helpful for our precipitation. How come? That we will see. But first let's understand the another different important terms. Which are other important terms? And first we will see the saturated air and unsaturated air. So as far as saturated air is concerned, anybody can tell me what is saturated air and unsaturated air? Yes, students, what is saturated air? Anybody? So let's discuss here. What is saturated air? The air is called as saturated air when the water vapor contained in any air mass or any air parcel is fully contained. Now see the two air masses, this is the one air parcel and this is the second air parcel. In this air parcel, the water vapor is fully present. Fully present means what? If this air mass is there and it has the capacity to hold, for example, 100 unit of the air mass or the water vapor, and if it contains exactly the same number of the same amount of the same content of the water vapor, then we will see that it is saturated air. But if this another air mass or the parcel of the air, it contains hardly 5% or 10% of the water vapor and its capacity is 100 unit and it contains just 5 unit or 10 units of the air water vapor, then we will call it as a unsaturated air. And if any air parcel which has the capacity of 100 unit and if it contains the water vapor 100 units, then we will call it as a saturated air. Getting it? So saturated and unsaturated air means the important concept here is the water vapor. If water vapor is fully present, means whatever its maximum, this is also called as the humidity capacity. This is also called as the humidity capacity. Means if in a particular air mass, if the water vapor is present to the fullest extent of its humidity capacity, means 100% of its humidity capacity, then the air is called as saturated, and if it is too low, too less, then it will unsaturated air. So getting this point, this is saturated air and unsaturated air. Now we will see the another defined term, saturation and condensation. First understand dew point. What is dew point? Majority of you would have been aware of this. As far as dew point is concerned, it is the point or it is a temperature at which the air gets saturated. What is dew point? Dew point is nothing but it's a point or it's a temperature where the air becomes saturated. That temperature is called as dew point. The temperature at which air gets saturated or becomes saturated, it is called as dew point. And now what is condensation? Understand it. So these are the correlation between the two. As far as condensation is concerned, in simpler terms, condensation is nothing but it is the conversion of water vapor into the liquid droplets. Condensation, see, means what's happening. Just look at here. What is condensation? It is the process or it's a phenomenon of conversion of water vapor into the water droplets or the liquid. The condensation in simpler one, understand this is very important concept. As far as condensation is concerned, it's a process, it's a phenomenon of conversion of water vapor, means the water in a gaseous form, to a liquid, means water in a gaseous form or water droplet. This process is called as condensation. Condensation is a process of conversion or transformation of the water vapor into the water droplets, means gas to liquid. It means what? It is the reversal of evaporation. What it is? Means condensation is nothing but it is the reversal of the evaporation. What happens in evaporation? Liquid get transformed into the gaseous form, and the condensation means it is exactly the reverse of that. So, but take into consideration one point, that it is very, very important to understand this process of formation of precipitation, that when this process of condensation begins. The answer is yes. Anybody of you can tell me? Oh, okay, I will explain. So, as far as this condensation is processed, this process of condensation takes place, it starts only after the air is supersaturated. When it begins? When the air is supersaturated. So, the process of condensation takes place when the air parcel, when particular air mass or particular air parcel is supersaturated. Supersaturated means after attaining the dew point, or it is relative humidity, its relative humidity is more than 100%. Its relative humidity is, the value of relative humidity is more than 100%, means after that air is fully saturated, and once it gets fully saturated, means after the stage of fully saturated, if any air mass is fully saturated, that means what? The water vapor content in it is 100%. The vapor content is 100%, but the process of condensation starts after that, means it is super saturated, means this water vapor content exceeds 100%, means particular air mass possesses the water vapor more than 100%, more than its capacity, means more than the capacity that it can hold the water vapor. In other terms, what is this saturation? Saturation means means if the air mass has a capacity to hold around 100 unit of mass, then if it contains the water vapor equivalent to that 100 unit or the 100%, then we call it as a saturated. But for condensation we need more than 100%, means say 110%, 120%. That means what? Means beyond the capacity of its holding that water vapor. And once the air get cooled or saturated to this extent, means it cannot hold the further water vapor, then it leads to the condensation. In simple word, you just keep in mind that when the air gets super saturated, then it tends to the process of condensation. So now you understand this, what is saturation and what is condensation. These are the very, very important terms that you must understand. Now we will move to humidity now. Now it will be better to understand what is humidity. Yes, student. Yes, anybody of you can tell me what is humidity? Humidity. So what is humidity, students? So as far as humidity is concerned, in simpler word, humidity is nothing but it is the are also called as the amount of. So humidity is what? Humidity is nothing but it is the amount of water vapor present in the particular air mass or particular parcel of the air. If this is the air parcel, then the amount of water vapor present in it, it shows its humidity. Means simpler air, if we say that particular air is humid, what does it mean? It means that air, that particular air mass contains, or that particular parcel of the air contains water vapor. That is called as humidity. So humidity is nothing means, but it is simply, it is the amount of water vapor or the content of water vapor present in the particular air mass or the particular air parcel. That is called as humidity. Now there are two important relevant terms, that is absolute humidity and relative humidity. Very important term, one must understand. One is absolute humidity and another is relative humidity. So these terms are also very necessary to understand the process of this precipitation. So what exactly is the absolute humidity? The absolute humidity is nothing but the exact or the absolute amount of water vapor present in the air, or you can also say that the actual. So absolute humidity is nothing but the absolute or the actual amount of the water vapor present in that air. Means, say for example, how can we explain it? If the water, if this air air pass, this is the air parcel, air mass, it has a capacity to hold 100 unit of water vapor and if it contains 20 units of water vapor, then we will say that this 20 is the absolute humidity of this air. Getting it or not? So absolute humidity is nothing but it is the actual amount of water vapor actually present. The absolute or the exact or the actual amount of water vapor present in this particular air mass or a particular air parcel, that is called as absolute humidity. Now understand what is relative humidity. So it will also, you can understand absolute humidity in relation to this very easily. As far as relative humidity is concerned, it is count in percentage. It is a relative phenomenon. Relative means how come? It is a ratio. In other words, we can say it is nothing but it is a ratio. Ratio of what? The actual amount of water vapor present in the air at a given time and given place for a particular volume and particular temperature to the total capacity of that air parcel to hold the water vapor. This is also called as humidity capacity. Humidity capacity. So understand first. So what is the relative humidity? As far as relative humidity is nothing but it is a ratio. Ratio of what? The actual amount of water vapor present in the air to the total capacity of that air parcel to hold the water vapor. Getting it? Means, takes just simpler example. If again the same, if this air parcel has the capacity to hold the 100 units of air vapor and if this air comprises around the 80 units of water vapor, then its relative humidity will be 80%. How much? 80%, because it is calculated in percent, it is a ratio. So as far as the relative humidity is concerned, it is a ratio of, it is a proportion of actual amount of water vapor present in the air to the total capacity of that air parcel to hold the water vapor. This is also called as relative humidity capacity. Means if the humidity capacity of the air is to hold, for example, 100 units and if it is having the water vapor content exactly present in that air parcel around 30 units, then the relative humidity will be 30%. If it is 80%, if it is 80 actual amount or actual proportion, then it will be 80%. So getting it? So these are the two terms that we need to be understand, what is absolute humidity and relative humidity. So as far as weather is concerned or human health is concerned, both this relative humidity and absolute humidity are important terms, and in scenario, if we take in perspective of just a minute, then what is the significance of this relative humidity? Why we are going to study it? So as far as relative humidity is concerned, it is very important in relation to our rainfall or the precipitation. How come? If the relative humidity is high, that means there are maximum chances of precipitation or the rainfall, and if the relative humidity is low, that means there are little chances of the precipitation, means the rainfall will not be to that extent. For example, the best example of low humidity is anybody? Deserts. And the example of high humidity is anybody? Equatorial region. In equatorial region, everybody knows that. What is equatorial regions? Equatorial, this is 0 degree. This Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, this is called as, and this central region is called as the equatorial region. This equatorial region is characterized by what? The maximum sunlight, maximum heat, and maximum temperature and maximum precipitation. So as far as this equatorial region is concerned, here there is a lot of abundance of the water vapor in the air, and as there is a lot of high quantity of water vapor, that's why the relative humidity is more in equatorial region. But when we comes to the desert region along the western parts of the continents, do you know, if you see the map, then you will see that the deserts are generally situated along the western part of the continents. So there these are characterized by the low humidity because the water vapor in the air is low. As water vapor is low, that means humidity is low. If humidity is low, then precipitation will be low. But see, the interesting feature, these both the climates, as far as human health and survival is concerned, the areas of high humidity as well as the areas of low humidity, both are very dangerous for the human health. Getting it? As far as the areas of high humidity is concerned and areas of low relative humidity is concerned, both are that much not considered to be soothing to the human health, because if you come, just take the example of desert and equatorial region. In equatorial region, there is, as humidity is so high that you need to perspire, there is loss of water from your body through the sweating, excessive sweating, and if you do not hydrate yourself properly, do not take water content, then it may be severe for your health. Similarly, in desert, it is also that much severe. You can understand it, what happens when we move in the desert areas because of the excessive heat and dryness of the weather. That means for the areas of high relative humidity and the areas of low relative humidity, both are dangerous for human health. Now we will come to our topic now, but prior to that, I think we must discuss what is normal lapse rate and adiabatic lapse rate. So as far as normal lapse rate is concerned, anybody of you heard? Okay, we will discuss. So see, just understand the nature of the air. What happens? We have seen when any parcel, it is heated from below, it gets expanded. As it gets expanded, it becomes lighter, and as it becomes lighter, it ascends upward. That means the vertical movement is there. That means such air is also called as unstable air. And such unstable air, when rises upward in the air atmosphere, then there is a normal lapse rate comes into force. So for any air mass or a air parcel that rises upward naturally, then there is a tendency to get reduced its temperature. Getting it? Means as the air parcel rises upward in the air, its temperature reduces. But how come? At what rate? At a 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. The temperature of the ascending unstable air get reduced at the rate of 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Means at every interval of 1 kilometer, after every 1 kilometer, the temperature fall will 6.5 degrees Celsius, and this is called as normal lapse rate. Lapse means reduction. Now we need to understand what is adiabatic lapse rate. Adiabatic lapse rate. So adiabatic lapse rate is concerned, we have seen that there are two types of the adiabatic lapse rate. One is the dry adiabatic lapse rate and other is the moist adiabatic lapse rate. So first understand what is the adiabatic process. What is adiabatic lapse rate? What we call as the adiabatic lapse. What is the process of adiabatically reduction of the temperature? Yes, it is very understand to get into it. So as far as the adiabatic rate of temperature is concerned or adiabatic fall is considered, means you know the temperature rises or falls if the heat is, if any particular air mass is there and we heat this air mass, or by because of the any of the natural factor it get heated, then what happens? It becomes more warmer. If any air parcel, if it is, the heat is removed from any air parcel, then what will happen? It will become cooler. Means what happens? By the addition of the heat, it becomes warmer, and by the reduction of the heat, any air mass becomes or air parcel becomes cooler. But as far as this adiabatic process is concerned, here the change of the temperature of the air means, or in other words, you can say that the cooling of that air parcel or warming of that air parcel, or in other words, we can also say that its expansion or contraction, these all processes, or in other words, you can also say that the ascent of the air or the fall of the air, these are divide of this heat exchange. Yes, means the temperature loss or the temperature reduction is happening, it is taking place because of what? Because of the expansion or contraction of air mass. Just understand, this is a bit complicated term. Generally, a natural tendency is that when the air masses is, if the heat is given to any air mass, then it becomes and it ascends upward, and if heat is removed, then it becomes cooler and it descends upward, that means moves downward. But this expansion or contraction or the ascent or the descent, this is divide of this heat, means even without giving any heat or reducing the heat, this process takes place, and that is called as adiabatic process. Means due to the expansion of the air or due to the contraction of the air, these changes takes place, means air rises or air comes down. This is called as the adiabatic process. Means without the exchange of the heat, without involvement of the heat, just because of the expansion, just because of the ascent or the descent, means if it air rises or if it descends, means because of this, means because of the ascent or descent or the expansion or contraction of the air, the change in the temperature takes place. This is called as adiabatic process. Means what's happening here? Without addition or subtraction of the heat. If such changes are taking place without the addition or subtraction of the heat and only because of either expansion or contraction or the ascent or descent, then it is called as adiabatic process. So now we have to understand what exactly the moist adiabatic lapse rate is and what a dry adiabatic lapse rate is. So as far as dry adiabatic lapse rate is concerned, just understand it first. See, if this is an air parcel, how it is? It is a dry, it is unsaturated, it is dry and unsaturated. Means when such air parcel, it is moving upward, that means ascending in the air, then its temperature is reduced at the rate which is called as dry adiabatic lapse rate, which is equivalent to 10 degrees Celsius per 1 kilometer. Means what's happening here? Understand here. When the air rises upward, it is unsaturated. Getting it or not? See, again come to the basic. This air mass, air parcel, this air mass, this air parcel which is warmer, it is warmer, that's why it is becoming lighter and that's why it is ascending upward. Yes, but now the moisture content in it is minimum. This air which has become just warm, the moisture content is minimum. That means humidity is less, relative humidity is little. That means we can say that it is not saturated. Can we call any air mass which is dry and warmer, it is unsaturated? Can't we call? Yes, we can call it because it is warm